Hello, everyone. This is Elham Fardad, the founder and CEO of the charity Migrant Leaders. I am really pleased from our side to welcome the Migrant Leaders mentees who've joined us here today to hear about career stories in the technology sector, and in particular, our wonderful corporate partner, Ciena. I feel very happy to be handing over to my friend and Ciena colleague Fabiola, because we've been working as migrant leaders with the Ciena team for a few years now. And they've been really fantastic and engaged, providing migrant leaders lots of mentors to now match through our app with the mentees at Migrant Leaders. We've done numerous events in terms of insight days in London at the Ciena offices, which has really opened up the mentees at Migrant Leaders, opened up their eyes to what is possible in careers in a global technology firm. Ciena also run with Migrant Leaders a summer work experience scheme, which is really impactful. And judging by the final day when the mentees present back to the Ciena team, I've seen those presentations and they are fabulous. You can see they've absorbed a lot from their work experience in the summer at Ciena, and long may our collaborations continue. So with a huge thanks from me personally and the Migrant Leaders team to the Ciena team, I hand over to Fabiola.
Thank you, yeah, so today we prepared basically a quick introduction about what Ciena is, very high level, so you can understand a little bit of what we do. Then we have our amazing speakers that will be talking about their careers. I'm trying, I don't know why my presentation is not going. Just a minute. Yeah, now it goes. Sarah, who will be talking about Ciena to you and also about her journey. Mary Gatehouse, thank you, Mary. Belen Solanas, Jane Duffy, Craig Macmillan, Karina, and finally, Emily Coker. They will all be presenting to you their journey, how their background, a little bit about themselves, and also how they got into tech and why they enjoy what they do today. All right. Without further ado, Sarah, handing over to you.
Thanks, Fabiola. So good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here with you all today. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking to you about who we are as an organization. And let me just start by telling you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So Ciena is a US headquartered organization, and we have over 8,000 employees who work all around the world. It's very unlikely that any of you will be familiar with the name Ciena because we're not a household name. In fact, we are a B2B, we're a business to business company. But I bet that all of you rely on our products every single day. And I'm sure that you'll see a couple of familiar logos on this slide because Vodafone and BT are two of our largest customers here in the UK. So what does Ciena do? Well, if you can go to the next slide, Fabiola, we manufacture and we sell the hardware and the software that makes fiber optic cables, which connect the world, power up with data. And that's everything from local broadband networks that we all use to connect to the internet from our homes, to the huge cables that run undersea to connect continents. And so that's why a company like Ciena is so important, even though you haven't heard of us. So you will all know that communication is absolutely critical. And in fact, networks have become the backbone of the society that we all live in today. Because not only do they connect places and things around the world to drive innovation and economic growth, but importantly, they connect people. They enable human connections. And they're so integral to day-to-day modern life that I'm sure that none of you can imagine not being able to access the internet from your homes, from your schools. So let's just go to the next slide, please, Fabiola, because I want to give you a sense of the scale and the speed of modern network connections that Ciena enables. So let's just start by kind of imagining the billions of users and the billions of devices that are sending data in milliseconds around the world. So from a user perspective, that's all of us that are talking today. We are browsing the internet, we are streaming content to our phones, we're streaming content to televisions in our homes, and all of us are on social media. So that's it from a kind of personal perspective. We are using these connections constantly in our day-to-day lives. But businesses and employees are also using cloud-based work resources and applications like we're on today, like Zoom. These all, again, rely on very reliable network connections. And of course, we're accessing the internet from lots of different devices. So it could be from our mobile phones, could be from our tablets, from our laptops. There are various kind of home automation devices that are all using either Wi-Fi or wired or mobile connectivity. So hopefully that gives you just a sense of the importance of networks in our day-to-day lives. And Ciena is a world-leading provider of the hardware and software that makes these connections work. And with that, I will happily take any questions around who Ciena is at the end of the call. But I think I'm up first just to talk a little bit about my career. Is that right, Fabiola?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Great. So, so in terms of my role at Ciena, so I've been at Ciena for 10 years now, and I lead our marketing organization outside of the Americas. So that means that I cover everything from Europe, Middle East, and Africa, across to Asia Pacific, India, and Japan. So it's a very broad and interesting part of the world that I cover, and I run a diverse multinational team. So a little bit about myself, Fabiola, if you can just click. So I was actually born in Germany. I am English, but I spent a lot of my childhood traveling around Germany with my parents, and we also were very lucky to live in Cyprus. I now live in London, so I live in Wimbledon. I am an animal lover. I've got a lovely dog at home, 2 cats, 2 kids, 1 husband. And we as a family, we love to travel. So my husband's actually from New Zealand, and we have been 12 times. So I have been 12 times to New Zealand in the time that I've known him. So at school, although I obviously work for Ciena, work for a technology company, I was actually more of an arts and languages student. So I studied languages at A level, I studied English, I loved history. So very much come from that arts background, and I also studied languages at university. And then finally, I am very passionate about diversity, and in particular about getting more women into the technology industry. And alongside a number of my colleagues on the call today, we're part of a resource group at Ciena called Women at Ciena, and I am currently the global chair. So in terms of how I kind of got to where I am at Ciena today, as I said, I studied French and German at university, so I definitely didn't take a direct route into the technology industry. And in fact, I'm kind of driven by my childhood of traveling around. I became a languages teacher when I left university. So I taught GCSE level French and German down in the southwest of England for a few years, but decided to make a change and actually use my language skills in the business world. So I left teaching and started working for a company that was based in Switzerland and in the UK. And that's really where I started to do a little bit of business travel and was able to use my languages within a business environment. And kind of coincidentally, I happened to have a meeting with a technology company called Cisco during one of my trips to Switzerland. And that really got me thinking. It was quite a long time ago, back in kind of the year 2000, 2001. And it really sparked my interest and got me thinking about moving into technology, which I was able to do. So I spent a long time at Cisco, and I had a number of different roles within that organization. I started out in an events role, so very much kind of an entry-level marketing position. And then through the connections that I made at Cisco, I was able to move into lots of different roles, and actually spent 14 years there before I left and joined Ciena in 2014. So I'm lucky enough now to have been at Ciena for over 10 years. And in that time, again, I've had a number of different roles. So I've probably changed roles 3 or 4 times during my time at Ciena. And as I said, I feel very fortunate to be in the role that I am, leading such an interesting team and covering such an interesting part of the world. I mean, in terms of really what makes my role at Ciena so interesting is, we sell complex technology, and the role of the marketing organization is really to turn that complexity into something that lots of our customers and prospects can understand. So really translating the technology into business value for our customers and our potential customers. And as I've mentioned many times, we have the privilege of working with some amazing people, some great technology minds, and some great business brains from all over the world. And that includes both our team at Ciena, but also the customers that we work with and the partners that we work with. I mean, in terms of my advice to those of you on the call today, you don't have to be an engineer to work in the technology industry, and hopefully you'll get a real flavor of that as you hear from everybody today. As you've heard, I don't have an engineering background, but I have a passion for technology, and we are all learning every day in this industry because it's so fast-paced. So my recommendation would be, ask lots of questions, make as many different connections as possible, expand your networks, and of course, follow your passion. So again, my passion is marketing. I'm a creative person, but I'm able to use that passion in a really fascinating industry. And with that, I'll hand back to you, Fabiola. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mary Gatehouse. One of the things I was just reflecting, one of the great things about panels like this is that you learn so much about your colleagues that you don't otherwise know. So really interesting to hear, Sarah, a bit about your background and how you came to Ciena. So a little bit about myself. I'm part of the legal team at Ciena. So we have a legal team of around 80 lawyers and contracts professionals. And like Sarah, I have the same kind of remit in terms of geographical responsibility. So we're both part of what's called the International Leadership Team. So I lead a team, again, like Sarah, very diverse, crossing Europe, Middle East, Africa, Europe, Middle East, India, over to Singapore, down into Australia. So I have some 3 people who are down in Australia. So very, very broad, lots of different languages, cultures, and really a really fantastic team. So just in terms of, Fabiola, if we click, I'll just talk a little bit about my background and how I got here. I was born in North Wales, a place called Llanfair, and I challenge anybody on the call by the end of the call to come up with a meaning for that place name. It's not the longest in the world, but I think it's very close to that. So brought up in a little village in North Wales, and Welsh speaking. I spent a bit of time, quite a lot of time actually, during my childhood in East Africa. So my father is a scientist, an entomologist, so studying insects, and he was at the time doing a lot of research on a particular insect that was eating all the crops in East Africa. So my sister, my mum, and myself joined him for some quite long stints in Kenya. So I went to school in a little village outside of Nairobi called Maguga. I learned some Swahili. So I think this is probably the point at which, as I think I first went when I was 6 years old, kind of opened my eyes to, something so different people, different language, different way of living, different food, different smells, just really fantastic opportunity. And that's where I think I got my passion for people and cultures and languages in particular. So just coming back to kind of that upbringing back in Wales, there's a picture there of my sister and myself. A lot of music in Wales. We like to sing a lot. There's a lot of music in the household and at school and more broadly in the community. Food central to everything. Sport, we love our rugby in Wales, and I continue to this day to love sport. I'll come back to the Morocco piece because that came a little bit later, but if we just click Fabiola, I'll talk a little bit about where I kind of went from there in further education. So love of languages, I took that into, so I studied French and German for A-level, and then I wanted to continue the language focus, but with something a little bit more exotic. I had a fascination for the Middle East from a fairly early age, kind of the art, the architecture, just there's something very exotic and attractive about it. So hence the Arabic. And really I was very focused on, not necessarily, I wanted to learn the language, but also to spend time in the Middle East. So the year abroad, which was my third year at university, that was split between 6 months in Syria and 6 months in Egypt. And then we did a lot of traveling in between. So again, a fantastic opportunity to kind of see the world, and at that age kind of being very open to everything. We learned an awful lot. We saw so much sort of hospitality, some wonderful people, wonderful places, and came back and realized that actually the whole point of doing that course was to spend the time away, and that last year was and doing exams was rather tough, but got through that. And then that's where the Morocco piece came in, because I then had an opportunity to, and it was sort of a one-off. There was a scholarship for Welsh people from Wales with an interest or some Arabic. And as my friends and fellow students at the time said, there was only one person. There was a category, it was made for me. So I spent a year in Morocco working for a number of different charities across the country, from Tetuan in the north down to Taradant in the south. So again, kind of, seeing different ways of living, different perspectives, and a great opportunity at that age. Coming back to the UK, I then didn't really know what to do with myself, and somebody suggested, I'd never thought about it before, but somebody suggested that if I were to combine law and languages, that could be an interesting career. So I looked into it and went for some interviews with some of the sort of global law firms based in London. Got a training contract, and a firm called Ashurst paid for me to do a law conversion, so basically a law degree in 1 year. And then I worked really for them I did a training contract with them and worked for them for about 7 years in both London and then 2 years in Madrid. So I was able to combine that kind of passion of languages with the legal career, which was kind of what I'd hoped for. But again, not with, as Sarah said, not a direct pathway. And certainly at this point, I'm not in tech at all. But from there, I then was looking at roles that were actually what we call in-house in the legal profession, which means that you're part of a business rather than being in private practice, which is what I had done until that point, where you have different clients. So it always appealed to me to be part of a company and to be sort of embedded in a business, understanding the strategy, really getting to know your team. And that's what the next role that I took was an in-house role with a Spanish company, but a global business in infrastructure. And the first focus was on a global airport business. Fantastically interesting. I loved that. But then we moved that actually went on to sell that business. And then I moved into telecoms, which was another division of that company. And that's where I started to get a bit of insight into telecoms and tech. And then fast forward a few years, and that's when I joined. So I've been at Ciena 5 years now, so joined Ciena in 2019. So I had an inkling of, I was working with sort of telecom towers, so what we would call the telecom infrastructure. And then a lot of the same customers that I had with Abertis are now customers of Ciena. So there was a sort of continuity there. It was really an adjacent market, we would call it. If I think about kind of my passions, you get the sense it's, all about people, all about connection. Sarah talked about connection, and that's where the technology piece comes in. And one of the things I love about what we do, as Sarah says, is that we are, it's all about innovation and connecting people, which is, fundamental to everything we all do today. The other piece is the languages and just continuous learning. That's something that I'm passionate about, continuing to learn and develop. I think it's never too late to continue to learn, even at my ripe old age. I see law as it was really a means to develop these passions I had, and also it gave me the road into tech, into both Abertis and Ciena, and to do what we do today. And I love what I do as well, like Sarah. I think probably you'll hear that a lot. And we all do very different things. And for me, it is all about the people. It's all about the connections we are making. From the work we do day in, day out, it's very different. Every day is different. It's about understanding different perspectives when we're negotiating contracts, when we're looking at different risks of different customers and some of the different stakeholders in our business. It is all about understanding people. And the other element that now more and more is becoming relevant to my role and our role in legal is geopolitics. So super relevant to all of our lives, and particularly to our business and the business that we are focused on and we are continuing to grow. When we look at what's happening in the US at the moment, in China, across the board, it's it's fascinating and highly relevant to our business. And then, as I said, continued learning. In terms of advice, I would say be open to new things. As you can see from what both Sarah and myself have talked about, we didn't necessarily see a straight line, but we were open to opportunities. We said yes. I think if you're in doubt, I would encourage you to say yes. You never know where that's going to take you, and it will always be interesting. And always ask questions and listen. I think people listen less nowadays. We're very used to talking, not necessarily to receiving. I always try and challenge myself to listen well and keep learning. Thanks, Fabiola.
Sorry, Belen, I was trying to unmute myself.
No problem. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'm next. My name is Belen Solanas, and I currently work at Ciena as an account manager, or the official name is a strategic sales consultant. My background is in engineering, and I'll let you know a little bit more about how I got to where I am today. I was actually born in Spain, in a village in the province of Zaragoza. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's in the north of Spain, near the Pyrenees, so near the border with France. My father was a farmer, but he had a very interesting life himself. He had actually been an immigrant throughout South America and ended up living in Canada for a long time, working as a miner. He actually returned to Spain and got married and had a family. And when we were growing up, he always taught us how important it was to education, as he didn't have a chance to get education himself, and also the importance of learning the language of English. So at the time in Spain, French was the only language, more or less, that people were learning, and I didn't have the opportunity to learn English at school. So he made sure that we were also being taught English outside school. And so, yeah, that's how I developed a love for the language. I started learning probably when I was about 10, and I kind of wanted to, I had the passion of traveling from a very early age as well, due to my dad telling me about all his travels. Um, and yeah, I did lots of sports as well while I was growing up. I tried lots of things. I don't know if I was really good at anything, but yeah, I did rhythmic gymnastics, played volleyball. I also learned how to dance the regional dance from my area, which is still danced today. Um, and I'm the youngest of three sisters. So, three girls in the family. My two sisters studied law, like Mary. They're both actually lawyers in Spain, and with very different careers, nothing to do with tech. But I actually did, my favorite subjects apart from English as a foreign language was maths and physics at school. I was naturally better at those subjects than the humanities and the arts. So I tended to gravitate towards those subjects. And although I didn't have a clue as to what I wanted to be and what I wanted to study, I did have some suggestions that if you do enjoy maths and physics, you should probably study engineering. So that's how I kind of ended up choosing electrical engineering in the end. I had the opportunity to actually study in the US. So I did my degree in Texas, and it was a very interesting time. Very mix of cultures actually where I studied in Texas, but I had a mix of scholarships and also several research assistantship jobs during the university time, which I would definitely recommend if you go into engineering degree, try to get a job while you're at university to start really learning a little bit more about one of the topics. There's so many different things that you can do within engineering, and this will help you to figure out what it is that you like. So yeah, after actually I graduated, I applied for an internship with a company called Nortel, and I got a job. I could only work for 6 months because I only had a student visa at the time. So I got a job with them, and I was able to work for 6 months. And by the end of the 6 months, they had offered me to stay full time. So they actually helped me to get a visa for 3 years. And I ended up staying almost 3 years in the US working for Nortel. I've had so many different jobs within Nortel, and then later on with Ciena, mainly as a systems engineer, network engineer. We worked in the field. We worked deploying the networks that Sarah was explaining, and everything that basically enables the internet to be connected. We worked with many different types of customers like Vodafone, BT. We also now work with other companies like Google and Facebook and Amazon, as you may know. Um, and and then after working in the US, I actually moved back to Spain with a job actually with the same company. So I actually helped deploy and design the networks for some of the new service providers that were actually starting to appear in Spain. around the late 90s. So I started working actually in beginning of 96. So next year will be 30 years since I started my career. And yeah, so most of that time, as I said, I've been an engineer. And 2 years ago, I actually transitioned to the sales role. And I look after one of the bigger customers. It's one of the bigger service providers in the US, but I look after this client outside the US. So everywhere where they're deploying their network in Europe, Middle East, Africa, India, and Asia Pac as well. So places like Singapore, Japan, Australia, and Hong Kong. What else? So yeah, some of the interesting things apart from supporting the largest telecom service providers, I actually worked on designing a couple of the networks for the last Olympics. So the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, you may be familiar with, and in Brazil as well, in Rio. So we provided the network that gave the connectivity back to the rest of the world so that everybody could watch the Olympics from home. So that was quite an interesting project to be involved in. I've also been a candidate for a technology award based out of a university in Spain called the Ada Byron Woman in Technology Award. This award is given to a woman who has been working in the technology field, could be a scientist, a researcher, or anybody in the technology business. Some amazing, women have been nominated and won the award. And what do I enjoy most about my career? I think that, the engineering degree gives you a very great foundation for problem solving. If you like solving problems, engineering it's basically it will teach you the foundation for problem solving, which in the business world is basically every day. You need to solve problems. Customers will come to you and will ask you to solve their problems technically and commercially. So that's one of the things that I love. And obviously, as previously mentioned as well with Sarah and Mary, because we work in such a global and multicultural company, it's great. I have conference calls with India, with Asia, with US, and just love working really with lots of different people around the globe and learning about different cultures. And what advice would I give to someone starting their career in the tech industry now? I would really advise to remain curious. I think you have the advantage that you have grown up already knowing technology and using technology since you've been born, and everything is changing at such a rapid pace. Artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, everything is going to change even more in the next 10 years, and there's always going to be something that you can learn, and will make it very fun to keep curious and learn. Also connecting with people as well, joining other groups that maybe open the doors to connect with other people, even if you're not working directly with them, and take every opportunity that you get given. Try out different things, and this will help you to progress your career. So I think yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Belen. So, Jane? Up next.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jane Duffy, and I work as a director in the digital transformation team. So unlike a lot of the guys on the call, I don't really kind of deal very hands-on with any of our products. So what my responsibility is kind of making sure that the tools and process that get our customer orders and get material from our manufacturers to our customers, that we can invoice, that we can pay our vendors. So all of those systems that kind of help Ciena to work, I work with our IT team to make sure that those are optimal and automated. So if you just spell that out, Fabio, thanks. So hopefully you'll notice from my accent that I'm not kind of over from mainland UK. So I was born in Ireland and I still work here. Ciena has an office in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and there's some of us who've been there for some time. So I also did not start, I didn't study IT or didn't study, anything to do with the job that I do now. I actually studied biochemistry, and I'm a scientist. And I started my career originally in scientific research. So kind of that was my first area for me. And I loved science at school. So it was kind of a natural thing that I wanted to study when I went to university. Probably didn't consider where it was going to take me at the time. But I think it's always good advice to study what you love and then kind of see how the world evolves for you. Things that I love to do are just hiking and traveling. If you've never been to Ireland, I'd really encourage you to go if you love to explore and love to see beautiful countryside. One thing that didn't come to pass, it was my kind of dream when I was a child. I loved to take part in sort of school musicals, probably a bit like Belen, but and my kind of dream as a child was to be in musical theatre, but that one never came to pass for me. One kind of curious thing for me, and this has always been something that I've loved to do, is making lists, much to my family's despair sometimes. And I think that whole kind of list making and ticking things off and getting things done says a lot about how I approach work as well. So if you just put on the next part, Fabiola. So as I mentioned, I did a degree in biochemistry, and I actually started my career in scientific research. So I worked in a lab, and I probably did kind of 5 to 6 years working in a very scientific type role. First in a diagnostic company, and then I went to work for a pharmaceutical company. And it was while I was working there that I started to take on more of a project manager type role on a particular project that we were working for with a big pharmaceutical company. And I kind of noticed then that it gave me a buzz. I love to get people together, to get things done, to make sure that we collaborated and met timelines. So as part of doing that role, then I like Belen, then I moved to Nortel. So Nortel kind of became Ciena eventually, but I've been with Nortel and Ciena now for about 25 years. And the skills that I have now, as I mentioned, kind of are a bit of a go-between between all of our business units, whether they're accounts receivable or supply chain. I'm a bit of a go-between between the IT teams that develop our processes and those teams that use them. And our real goal is to be able to automate a lot of what we do and make it really repeatable. So that's kind of the role I have today. So what do I enjoy most about what I do? Well, the variety is huge, because one day you'll be on a project trying to automate invoicing, and the next day you'll be on a project kind of trying to work out how do you make the warehouse more efficient or logistics more efficient. So I love helping other people solve problems. And I think if you're thinking about a job in technology, sometimes I think you've got this idea that there's someone sitting with headphones on coding. Technology offers a fit for anyone. So if you're a people person, you'll find wonderful collaboration opportunities. But if you are a person who prefers to work a bit more independently, then also there's those types of roles as well. And I think it offers great scope for whatever way you like to work. Some advice for anyone starting their careers is to find out what your strengths are as early as you can. And sometimes that means asking people, because sometimes we're not always terribly self-aware of what we're good at. So find out what your strengths are and what gives you a buzz, and then find a way to use those. So a bit like my list making and ticking things off, it's still something I'm good at and use every day. And also, you know, don't wait for someone to offer you the role that you want. If you see a need or see a problem or something that needs fixed and you think you can do it, then step right in there and take it on. Don't wait for someone else to kind of offer it to you on a plate. So Fabiola, that's my bits of advice.
Hey everybody. Yeah, Craig McMillan. I am an account director with inside our subsea business with inside Ciena. I just like to say thank you very much. I've never been able to put a sheep, a potato, and my cats on a slide before, so that's a first for me. So just wanted to cover off some points just around about myself. Hopefully you can tell from the accent I'm similar to Jane. I come from Northern Ireland. I work on a farm, or I came and I grew up on a farm, and hence the picture of the sheep and the potato. You know, when I was a child, I think living on a farm gave me the possibility. I really loved to take stuff apart. You know, washing machines, hair dryers, TVs, you name it, it was getting ripped apart. And I think that was kind of the starts of the kind of curiosity of how things worked, and you know, probably led me into you know, being interested in engineering. A little fact is, you know, I was the only kid at my school that didn't do any foreign languages for his GCSEs. I'm quite severely dyslexic, and I think my school thought, you know, if he gets his 2 English GCSEs, he'll have done pretty well to get through it. So I managed to get through my GCSEs, and then I left Northern Ireland to go and study electrical and electronic engineering at Edinburgh University, which was fantastic. I've got 3 kids. We all love to go camping a lot, traveling to different countries to see different cultures, and obviously also to watch a little bit of sport, Irish rugby, having just come back from Cardiff at the weekend. Also, we've got 2 cats, called Echo and Otto, which we got during lockdown, which are yeah, everybody loves them very much. So just to move on quickly to more about my career. Similar to Gian, you know, I've been at Ciena now 26 years. It's quite incredible. But and again, similar to Belen, I worked for a good part of those 26 years. 24 of those years, I worked in the kind of engineering team within Ciena. Moving from, you know, being an engineer within a team to running a small team within Ciena, to ending up in the last few years of that role, leading the engineering team across, you know, the engineering team across Europe. So that was a team of 65 engineers, across 17 countries throughout Europe. But as my grandfather always used to say, you know, a change is as good as a rest. And that's what really I had through the 24 years in my engineering role, where things were always changing with inside the industry and roles and responsibilities. But then if I look forward to the role that I've got now, I as well, similar to Belen, have moved into a sales position with inside, you know, looking after customers who build subsea cables all around the globe. And a good example, and I think Sarah touched on this at the top of the call. 98% of all data around the globe is across subsea cables. So it's a critical part of the infrastructure. It's funny, you hear a lot of it in the news at the moment. But one example of a project that I'm working on at the moment is to Africa, and you can see there's a little diagram up on the right hand side here. But this is to Africa, and it's a subsea cable that runs for 45,000 kilometers from the Mediterranean the whole way around Africa. Not only is, you know, personally, it's a fantastic project, working into all these different geographies that I'm working into, but also it's you know, for thinking about what you're doing from a day-to-day role and how that's going to actually impact Africa, you know, it is very interesting. So I mean, that's my career, as I say, up to 26 years. But what I enjoy most really about my career over those 26 years, I think the fact is nothing really does stand still. You know, we're in an industry. If you imagine, I started working 1998, 99. The iPhone wasn't even sold until 2007. So, you know, it's those kind of things that really make you think about how an industry like the telecommunication industry has really changed throughout those years. It's you know, as we say, from various different aspects of what we do, things are changing and exciting new challenges. Keeps everything fresh. But also, you know, companies like Ciena, Ciena and other companies, you know, we deliver the internet. You know, that's you know, my friends, families, or people ask me, well, what do you actually do, Craig? You know, it's quite hard to explain it to them, but you know, nobody would have any kind of social media connectivity, you know, unless companies like Ciena were able to build the internet, and that's not going to change anytime soon. You know, we know AI is coming, and that equally needs a similar amount or even more connectivity than we've had over the last, you know, first 26 years of my career. So I think that's why, you know, I find it you know, my role in working in this industry just, you know, fascinating from a day-to-day aspect. If I had to then, you know, give advice, you know, and I would say this because I did get an engineering degree. You know, my view is go and get an engineering degree if you possibly can, and I'm not going to, you know, be shy away from that. You know, I think it gives you really an engineering degree demonstrates capabilities around problem solving, mathematics, and the various skills that you've got. That then, even though you mightn't fully understand where you're going to go, it gives you the basis to head into any parts of any kind of industry. Realistically, it's such a good foundation to start from, and then you can head in anywhere. You can, you know, you can go, you can pretty much go anywhere, because I think, as we all know, and you know, at your age, you're probably not 100% sure where you want to go yourself. So it really does give you a good basis. Yeah, so that's, I think, everything for myself. So I think I'm handing over to Karina now.
Thank you very much, Rick. Karina.
Great, thank you. Hi, so my name is Karina Monaghan. I'm a lead business analyst in the Enterprise Digital Strategy and Technology Group. So it's a bit of a tongue twister. 5 facts about me, not in any order. First of all, I was actually born in an ambulance, parked in a lay-by on the way to a hospital in Norfolk in England. So it's quite an unexpected entrance to the world. Number 2, my cousin and I are the first generation in our family to have pursued education beyond high school, though it wasn't a straightforward path. After completing high school and sixth form in England, I started my first serious full-time role as a secretary for a managing director of a small holiday company called Grand UK Holidays. But after experiencing the long commute every day on a bus and not foreseeing really any growth in the company, I was eager for new experiences at that young age. So I moved to California in the United States for a year as an au pair. So I did the nanny thing. And after that, after I came back home, I knew at that point I need to go back to school, whether it was in the US or the UK. So I was able to get my student visa to the US and go back to California. And there I studied at De Anza College in Cupertino and also at Monterey Peninsula College in Monterey. And then lastly, I completed my studies at Golden Gate University. It's San Francisco, but it was a satellite office in Monterey, where I got my Bachelor's of Science degree in accounting at night school while working full-time during the day. So I then later studied and obtained my CPA, my Certified Public Accountant license, while attending Ernst & Young. A little bit more on that later. Number 3, after spending 30 years in California, my family and I recently moved, I'll say recently, to England in 2022. My 2 boys then had been asking for a border collie. So we adopted our dog Ace, or Sillamar, in 2023. I had never owned a dog before. I'd always been a cat person, but I do now understand how dog parents view their dogs now as equal members of the family. And number 4, So growing up, I was always working in some form. I couldn't sit still. This has been an interesting reflection on this. It must have been that intro into the world with the ambulance, I don't know. But I took on a variety of jobs while attending school, and needless to say, my grades suffered a bit because of it. But I worked on a farm where I rode and cared for horses and cleaned out stables and pigsties. I also delivered newspapers on my bicycle in all kinds of that British weather in early mornings. Worked on a deli counter at the co-op and got really good at cutting the cheeses and meats to the precise weights of the customer. Was a dental assistant, held retail jobs, waitress at a pub and a cafe. So number 5, while living in Monterey, I had the opportunity to work for the Candid Camera television show. And one of the co-hosts was Dina Ruiz Eastwood. I was asked to go to her house in Carmel to pick up photos to help with advertising and marketing for the show. But while sitting at the table, her husband, none other than Clint Eastwood, walked through the kitchen where I was sitting with Dina, and he greeted me wearing a white spa-like robe, flanked with 2 large green parrots, one on each shoulder. And we shook hands, and he just walked on through, put the parrots away in the cage, and then off he went. It's like a sight I'll never forget that. All right, so transitioning now. So a brief intro to my education qualification. So as mentioned, I earned my Bachelor of Science in Accounting while attending night school in Monterey. And then during the day, I held a few roles as a nanny, financial coordinator, and an accountant at different times, of course. My background includes accounting, bookkeeping, internal and external auditing, a little bit of forensic accounting, US tax preparation, capital planning management, specifically in IT hardware and software development, project management, consulting, and lots of data analysis now. I would say my professional career took off when I really started working at Ernst & Young as an auditor, and that was back in the US, and we had high-tech and biotech clients. So since then, I've naturally been drawn to technology and innovation companies. One, because, well, I was in Silicon Valley, it was nothing but high tech around me. But also it's enlightening, energizing, as I can see here today with everyone's speeches, and it never stays still. So the path then has ultimately led me to Ciena, where I started in the US in 2020, and then I transitioned here in 2022. So in my nearly 5 years at Ciena, I've been able to apply my expertise while also continuing to learn new skills in an environment that encourages constructive failure. I feel Ciena also allows you the bandwidth to just put yourself out there and give it a go. One of the best things about having an accounting and auditing background is its versatility. I can take it across most industries and across the world. If you're open to new challenges, I believe you can pursue countless directions with the skill set that I've gained. I realized early on that I didn't want to climb the traditional career ladder with the big 4 firms, so I chose to gain experience, as you can see by the logos, in a variety of roles across different companies. But I did find that my time with Ernst & Young was invaluable, as it felt like it was like a basic training, military style, but for technically, and to build a really strong work ethic there. And it has served me well in the fast-paced tech and telecom industries. So 1, maybe 3 pieces of advice for someone starting in tech or telecom or considering a career at Ciena. I've put it 3 times: network, network, network. Cultivate authentic relationships with your current contacts while always seeking new connections. You just never know when you're going to need your network. Strive to exceed expectations. Don't just do the minimum that's asked. Ask yourself where else you can add value to the area that you're focusing on. And don't be afraid to fail forward. Every misstep is an opportunity to learn and grow. It's I feel failure and growth is synonymous, really, and it should just be common ground. So especially in an innovative environment like tech and telecom. So just go for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karina. Emily, let's
Thank you, Fabiola. Hi, everyone. So I'm Emily Coker, and I support the team across the international community. So similar to Sarah and to Mary, I support everything, all of the people from Ireland round to New Zealand, focusing on human resources or the people business partner in the sales community. Some of these pictures just really show some of my passions, because it's really important to me that I love what I do all of the time. And one of my biggest passions is sport, either playing or watching. So this was a tennis game that I went to see last summer and had a wonderful time. But I love to try any sport and all sports of any sort. Give me a racket, a bat, or I'll put on my trainers, I'll give it a go. I love travel as well. So the next two pictures, one of them's down in a place called Muddyford on the south coast, and I took that photo not realizing quite how much like it was the Ready Brek advert with the glow, with the sun going down behind. But we were on a paddleboard that evening, enjoying ourselves as a family. And this next one, it actually looks like somewhere in Italy, but it's not. It's in Vegas. It's the Fountain of the Gods, and it's a replica inside. It just looked so phenomenal to me. It looked real on the outside, something you'd turn around a corner in Rome and you'd see, but no, it's not. It's in the US. And then the last picture on the right-hand side, this is between Nice and Monaco on the coast. And I love my garden. And this beautiful house was right on the coast with the bougainvillea. So I took a picture, as I'd like to keep memories. But as you can probably tell, I have a real passion for people, and these last two pictures are things that I've done more recently at Ciena. So one of them is I spend a lot of time with the early and career team at Ciena, helping them grow and excel their skills to pursue their passions. And this particular one, where you can see them all stood in a row, we're at a communications workshop, learning how the importance of our performance in communications. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it, and how you deliver the message gives the greatest impact. And we were doing some improvisation with a ball. You can see it's a globe that they're holding, and they're having to pass it along, making it, trying to give the message that it was really heavy or light, depending upon the emotion that they wanted to create. And then very lastly, we get together once a year as a team and do things to give back to our communities. And this was a very, very early morning 5K run that we did. I think it was 6 a.m. or something like that. So we got up and ran. So that's a little bit about my passions and the things that I enjoy. How did I get to, or what was the path that I followed in my career? So when I was at school, I was really inspired by my PE teacher and thought I want to follow in her footsteps. So I went to university and studied geography and sports science, thinking that geography would be my second subject and I'd be a PE teacher. And I realized at the end of that 3-year course that I would have to teach children who hated sport. And it really struck a chord. My father just said to me, well, what is it that you like? And I said, it's the people. And he said, personnel's for you. It's the end of the conversation. And I went off to do a master's in business administration and HR at Aston Business School to really learn the craft of what is HR and give me the foundations to start a career supporting people. So when I was doing my master's, I had to write a dissertation, and I had no industry experience of working in an HR profession. So I went and volunteered at Champneys Health Farm in their HR department. And it was really enjoyable because I was able to pursue my kind of interests around health and sport, but work in the personnel department. I spent 4 months doing that voluntary work full time, but I knew it was invaluable. Even though I wasn't getting paid, it gave me a lot of insight to start to be able to have a conversation at an interview of why I wanted a job in HR. And through that, I made some friends, and one of them was working at Nortel in telecoms. And she said, I've got a referral program, come and work for us and I'll get a referral bonus. And that's how I got into telecom. So it was never a chosen career path, but I've always been interested in technology, but interested in the sense of how can it help us as individuals, as our community, to society, as opposed to the nuts and bolts of the physics side of things. So I started in HR in the graduate recruitment department, doing the administration and scheduling of interviews and assessment centres. And since then, I've done a variety of different HR roles. So I've spent time doing country HR. I've spent doing time in Germany on assignments. I spent time in Italy doing assignments. A big chunk of time looking at mergers and acquisitions, nearly for about 10 years, at when companies buy and sell parts of their business and the people that are associated to the sale. And then more recently doing business partner work, which is the job that I've got today. So what do I love most about my role or my career? As you can tell, it's working with people and deeply understanding what the business strategy is and how we as people can contribute to that, and how we're the greatest assets to an organization. It's the talents and the strengths that we bring and the impact that we can have on business success and creating high-performing teams. So what advice would I give to someone starting their career? There's a few things that when I was thinking about this that really struck me. Innovation and change are a real constant, and we heard Craig mention it too. So it's always there. And I say this in two ways. It's always there. So if there's some change that doesn't feel so comfortable when you're going through it, don't worry too much, because it's going to change again in the near term. So don't dwell and resist it. Just embrace it, because something new is around the corner too. Be really brave and curious and get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. Sometimes when you're doing the things that you feel so out of your comfort zone or you feel so out of control, it's when you're actually learning the most. And afterwards, you'll reflect and think, wow, what have I achieved? You accomplished so much and you've learned so much from that experience that you can take on in your career, but also share with others so they gain the benefit of the experience that you've learned. Have a strong support structure around you. There are times when your friends, your family, your colleagues will boost you up. They'll give you courage and they'll help you when you need a bit of advice. Make sure that they're there for you, whatever the weather, they'll be there for you and to support you. And then lastly, and I think really importantly, kindness in everything that you do is really, really valuable. And it's something that really, I think, to me, means so much, to be kind to everyone that you work alongside and how you collaborate, because you can help one another achieve so much together as opposed to going alone individually. And sometimes I use the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So with that, I will close. I know we've gone over and I've spoken really fast, but I hope it's been insightful and helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emily. Yeah, and with that, we conclude our session. Ellen, I don't know if you have any last words, if we have any questions from the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Mentees can type their questions in the chat. I'd like to end by saying thank you to everybody who joined from Ciena. Your stories, as I listened to them, even I didn't know everything about you that you mentioned on this webinar. So it's been really insightful for me as well. Thank you very much, Fabiola, Belen, and everyone for doing this with us. And we look forward to our next collaboration.
Perfect. I don't see any questions. Well, usually we know the mentees are very shy when we're recording, but well, if you get any questions, offline from them to any of our speakers today, just let us know. We're happy to answer any questions.
I should say I've had one private question, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one coming up from Ikra and Yulin as well. Just bear with me. One private question that went only to me in the chat was, how did each of the speakers think their role will change in the next 10 years because of the changes in technology? I don't know if any of the speakers would like to talk about that.
I'm happy just to jump in and share a couple of comments on that. I can my answer will be related to AI. And obviously that's a very, very fast moving area. So from a marketing perspective, we are running a number of pilot activities within Ciena at the moment to really look at how AI can make us more efficient in our jobs. So things like helping us write what we call copywriting, so writing emails to customers, putting LinkedIn adverts together. You know, AI is going to really help us with all of that to make us much more efficient, help us work with more velocity. So that's a really positive thing. Another area that we're looking at within marketing with AI is actually manipulating images. So whenever we launch a marketing campaign, we will have lots of images that we need to resize for adverts, for the website. And with AI, again, we can save money and we can work a lot faster. So within the marketing organization, I think AI is a very, very positive thing for us. It'll make us all much better at our jobs and help us get campaigns out to market faster than ever before.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We've got two other questions in the chat at the moment. Ikra has asked, thank you, Ikra, what are the 3 things that you would recommend we would prepare for a tech interview?
Yeah, I don't know, Craig, Belen?
Yeah.
Or technical?
Well, I would say the 3 things that come to mind, and Craig, if you want to jump in as well after this,
Yep.
I would say obviously look into the company that you're applying for. If you do know the company, then read about what is it that they do, and what is it that the market that they're in does. Read about the industry and learn about what are some of the recent things that are probably on social media or articles about the company that and the market that the tech job is in. And then the third thing would be think about the skills that you have that you can apply for the type of job that they're looking for. Because I'm sure that there's always things that you can apply that you've learned from the different. As you can see here, everybody's has studied different degrees, but we're all working in tech. At the end of the day, there's many different roles that you can apply, and so look into the skills that you can create and mention.
Thank you, Belen. The next question came from Yulin. A quick one for any of the speakers who want to say what. Yulin has asked, what's a defining moment in your career?
Wow, Mary, do you want to take this one?
To be honest, I was just thinking how old I am and how many there probably are. But trying to come up with one is quite difficult. I mean, I think I would probably bring it back to, and it probably, so I wouldn't have one defining moment would be the answer, but I can think of moments where, people have really, really helped me to see beyond what I could see for myself. So when I've made moves, between different roles, and all feeling that, can I do it? Can I not? And that hand being extended to say, pulling you up and say, of course you can do it. I think one that comes to mind along those lines is when I moved into an airport business from a law firm going into a business. It was a business I didn't know anything about. And very soon the guy who had recruited me he left. And so I was then put into what I felt was a very senior role. And at the time, a friend of mine who was in a law firm, I spoke to her and I said, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And she said, of course you can. And she said, I'm going to give you a trainee, a really good trainee who will come and be with you in the business. And you can use the resources of me and my team, but you can definitely do it. And I remember that conversation thinking, okay, if she thinks I can do it, maybe I can. She was very senior. I really respected her. that was a moment where I thought, okay, I can do something that I thought I couldn't do. So that was a defining moment, but there were many, I would say, and they all came down to people helping me, which is why I think all of us on this call, we now are very focused on how we can help people to make that step wherever that opportunity comes up. So that's one I would share, Alham.
Thanks very much, Mary. And the penultimate question is from Ali, and I really like this one. Ali's asked, what are the skills in your roles that can't be taken away by technology?
Great question.
I suppose I'll have a first go at it. And I suppose it's back to, you know, a large part of our organization is sales. You know, whether it's sales engineering or it's like pure sales like myself. And people buy from other people that they know. It's all, you know, 95% probably the sales that's just like is made up of the relationship that you have with your customers. That like which technology, AI, whatever, will never be able to replicate. So I suppose that from my perspective, it's, you know, I think about, you know, what can AI bring? Yeah, efficiencies definitely, but it will never replace going to meet somebody, talking through a solution, and proposing and building up those relationships with your customers to you know, push that sale over the line. I think that's my one view.
Thank you so much, Craig. The final question that I can see in the chat is a private one from one of our mentees, and this mentee is asking, all the speakers talked about a lot of constantly changing things in their industries and careers. So what's your main advice in terms of not only adapting to change, but also striving above it?
It's a good one.
Yeah. Anyone?
I suppose, I mean, again, you know, as somebody else mentioned already, you know, agility is a key trait that you should always have, but being ready for the change that's going to happen is also key as well. You know, if you know change is going to be ahead, you can prepare for it. If you don't, then you just have to be agile and take it on board. I think there's maybe one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
You got me thinking, Craig. I like that, to be prepared and agile.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would just build upon that as well, that know your value, know what your strengths are, and then you can see in the future, how can your value that you have today, how can you build upon it? How can you make it stronger? What is it that's coming that is going to increase the impact that you can have?
Thank you.
And it happens quite organically. If you love what you do, your curiosity will take you to that next place that's around the corner.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I think that is all the questions. And Yulin and others have messaged to say, could we connect on LinkedIn with the speakers here today?
Yeah, of course.
No trouble.
Thank you so much. That's very generous of you. Thank you. And I think I'll hand back to Fabiola for ending the fantastic webinar.
Yeah, and great questions. I thought we were not getting anyone, and they brought us really nice questions. So thank you so much. And as I said, of course, you can connect with the speakers on LinkedIn. But you know, if you have any specific questions you'd like to get answers for, just Ellen, feel free to send to me. Happy to reroute to the speakers here as well. All right.
Thank you again, everyone at Ciena. Thank you, Fabiola.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
joining.
you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice evening.
Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.